The bill sat between them like a quiet judge, its white surface glowing under the restaurant lights, heavier than any spoken truth. Her hands trembled as she stared at it, and when she finally lowered her eyes, her voice broke into a whisper that carried more pain than shame, more honesty than pride. She could not afford this date, and in that moment, the fragile hope she had allowed herself to feel cracked open, exposing old wounds she had tried to hide. Across the table sat a single father who had learned long ago that life rarely announces its hardest tests, it simply places them in front of you and waits to see who you choose to be. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of human goodness, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to channel name, because stories like this remind us that the smallest moments can change everything. He had not always been a man who believed in miracles. Years earlier, responsibility had arrived without permission, wrapped in loss and sleepless nights, when he became both mother and father to a little boy who still slept with the hallway light on. Life since then had been measured in careful choices, counted coins, and sacrifices that never made headlines. He worked long hours, packed lunches before dawn, and learned how to braid hair for school events he never missed. Love, to him, was no longer grand gestures but steady presence, the kind that shows up every single day even when no one is watching. When he met her, it was not romance that struck him first, but recognition. He saw in her eyes the same tired strength, the same quiet courage of someone who had been fighting invisible battles for far too long. She carried her struggles gracefully, but they weighed her down all the same. A life of near misses and hard lessons had taught her to lower her expectations, to accept less than she deserved, to smile even when the ground beneath her felt unstable. Saying yes to this date had taken more bravery than she cared to admit. She had ironed her dress twice, practiced confidence in the mirror, and told herself that maybe, just maybe, this time could be different. But as the evening unfolded, laughter softened into silence, and the arrival of the bill pulled her back into a reality she could never outrun. Old memories flooded in, of times she had been judged, dismissed, or quietly abandoned because life with her seemed too complicated. The restaurant around them continued its hum, unaware of the storm forming at their small table. The man watched her closely, not with pity, but with understanding that ran deep. He remembered nights when he had stood at grocery store counters, calculating what he could put back, choosing between necessities and hope. He knew the humiliation of wanting to appear capable while feeling exposed. In her whispered apology, he heard echoes of his own past, moments when pride had nearly broken him. And instead of turning away or offering a hollow reassurance, he allowed the silence to stretch, honoring her honesty as something sacred rather than embarrassing. What he did next was not dramatic in the way movies make generosity look. There were no raised voices, no public declarations, no attempt to play the hero. He simply leaned forward, steady and calm, and did what he had learned to do best over years of fatherhood and loss. He chose compassion without conditions. He paid the bill without making it a statement, without making her feel smaller, without allowing the moment to turn into charity. To him, it was not about money, it was about dignity. He understood that sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is letting them keep their self-respect intact. But the night did not end there. Outside, under the glow of streetlights and passing cars, something shifted between them. She expected awkwardness, maybe distance, perhaps even an unspoken goodbye. Instead, she found herself standing beside someone who treated her struggle as a shared human experience rather than a flaw. He spoke of his son, of mornings filled with cereal spills and bedtime stories, of fears he carried quietly and dreams he still dared to imagine. In his vulnerability, she felt safe enough to let her own guard down. They walked a little longer than planned, not because they needed to say more, but because neither wanted the moment to end. In the days that followed, life did not suddenly become easier. Bills still arrived, responsibilities still demanded attention, and past wounds did not vanish overnight. But something new had been planted, a sense that maybe the world still held room for understanding. He invited her into his everyday life slowly, carefully, introducing her to the rhythms of single parenthood, to laughter that erupted over burnt pancakes, to the quiet joy of watching a child feel safe. She, in turn, brought warmth into spaces that had grown routine, reminding him that love could be gentle and patient, not just resilient. For her, this connection rewrote a narrative she had carried for too long. She stopped apologizing for her circumstances and started seeing her worth through new eyes. Being with someone who did not measure her value by her bank account or her past allowed her to breathe more freely. She began to dream again, to take steps toward stability with renewed confidence. And while challenges still came, they faced them side by side, not as savior and saved, but as equals choosing each other every day. Time passed, marked by small victories and inevitable setbacks. The single dad learned that opening his heart again did not weaken the foundation he had built for his child, but strengthened it. His son watched closely, absorbing lessons about kindness, respect, and what it means to treat people with empathy. The woman who once whispered an apology now stood taller, her voice steadier, her smile more genuine. She learned that love does not demand perfection, only honesty and effort. The moment that once felt like the end of hope revealed itself as a beginning. A simple dinner bill became a turning point, not because of the money exchanged, but because of the humanity shared. In choosing kindness, he altered the course of two lives, and in accepting it, she found the courage to believe again. Their story did not unfold in grand headlines or viral moments, but in everyday acts of care that slowly stitched broken pieces back together. As the years went on, they would look back at that night not with embarrassment, but with gratitude. It reminded them that life's most meaningful changes often start in moments of vulnerability, when pride is set aside and compassion steps forward. The world did not become perfect, but it became kinder in the ways that mattered most. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that goodness still exists in quiet corners of everyday life, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to channel name to support stories that celebrate humanity. Before we reach the end, leave a comment below sharing what kindness means to you or a moment when someone's compassion changed your life. Because sometimes, the greatest love stories are not about grand gestures or flawless beginnings, but about two imperfect people meeting at the edge of their struggles and choosing empathy over judgment. And in that choice, they discover that even the smallest acts of understanding can echo through a lifetime.